Afternoon, everyone. Welcome. And as I said, it's the graveyard shift. So normally we need to talk a bit about politics and sex and religion and get everyone all angst and it's going. But I'm going to talk about supply chain. And that's really today quite an exciting topic. And probably the most exciting thing that's happened with supply chain in the last 2 years has been that supply chain is now front of mind. American presidents talk about supply chain problems. The average person in the street understands what supply chain is. Most people thought about supply chain as governments buying stuff at illegal prices and paying a lot of money for it. Okay, it's changed. Okay, so it's quite exciting. I'm going to take you through some of, hopefully an exciting topic and keep you awake for the next 40 minutes. And if I don't, tough.
Perhaps the most incredible story of the last million years is the rise of modern human culture. The cities we populate and the lives that we lead. It is the world that our children will inherit.
So the supply chain is actually for the consumer. Everything we do in the supply chain is to drive the process through that we can get products to the consumer, and we as consumers consume everything, and we become consumers of note. We all here at hopefully a supply chain conference, and everyone knows what the supply chain is and has seen these type of pictures before, but I thought I'd put it up just to make sure that it's the process of taking things from raw material through manufacturing, distribution, to the retailer, to the customer, and now we're starting to look at the return logistics supply chain of actually repurposing, recycling, and actually closing that loop to actually getting back to source. At the moment, only 3% of what we consume on the world is actually recycled. So there's a significant opportunity to actually drive that supply chain. You walk into a supermarket, you find the stock shelved, there's stock on the shelf. You take what you want, you pay for it, but do you actually think how it got there? What was the process to get that stock shelved, get the stock on the shelf? Okay, e-commerce is probably no different. You click on something, it gets delivered to your door, and you're very happy. Hopefully it comes quite quickly. But this once took weeks, and now it's compressed into sometimes a matter of minutes. There's systems in South Africa running at 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. America's running 15 minutes. Amazon talk about a 5-minute delivery objective. So it is changing. Big drives. And then we talk about the consumer. What about your lifestyle? What makes you a consumer? What do you want out of product? You're demanding. You want fresh product. You want healthier products. We want things faster. We want it hygienic. We want green and ethical solutions. And probably we'll pay for it. And then the aging population, youth have different objectives. Millennials. And then our mobility when we travel. Things are different in different parts of the world. So we have a right to safety, right to be informed, and the world today is all about information. Okay? Everyone goes on the internet, knows everything. You can go price check, you can quality check, you can get the ingredients of anything. You can Google. I was born BG before Google, but today you can Google anything. Okay? There's the right to be heard, the right to redress, and that changes what we need to do in a supply chain, because as I said, the supply chain is all about the consumer. What does the consumer want? Absolute choice. There's a retail theater when you go shopping. Shopping has become the new religion. People use that as a pastime, as their recreation, going to shopping stores. We all suffered during lockdown, tied up at home, and then we started buying on the internet and bought a hell of a lot more than what we ever wanted, because it got delivered, and it was our only experience and exposure to this drug that we have of shopping. Okay, there's an abundance of choice. It's always got to be available. It's got to be great value. And how does it differ between different LSMs? So obviously the people without money and the people with money have differences in what they drive to buy and what their drive to own is. And obviously, pure needs necessitates your survival through just purchase of food. But as you move up, you start to buy luxury goods and move through the supply chain. But really, when we look at the customer focus, we look at three things in terms of customer satisfaction: availability, the range that you've got exposed to, and the price. And that applies to everything. And we look at the complexity of range. In FMCG, I remember when I started as a consultant in the late 80s, an average grocery store had maybe 4,000 to 6,000 SKUs in a store. Today in South Africa, a grocery store is about 28,000. In America, grocery stores are between 50 and 100,000 SKUs. UK, somewhere 30 to 40,000 SKUs. So there's an absolute explosion. Electronics, you think about stuff that didn't exist when I started. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have a lot of the stuff, AirPods and things that will change our lives. And there'll be other things that will change our lives coming forward continuously. Shoe sizes, and you think about the shoe industry, how many sizes and variety, and in apparel, style, color, size, and how you've got to multiply everything. So how does the supply chain influence price? So the cost of the supply is the same. But when you differentiate yourself, it's by taking it through your supply chain to get it to your store. Okay, if you can do transport more efficiently, if you can have DC operations that are better and faster, if you've got centralized versus decentralization, and you've got economies of scale, you've got speed of response, and you've got innovative DC design using different methods of handling, automation, manual, that's going to bring costs down or bring costs up, but give you different services and delivery. And it all results, the whole objective is to result in better in-store service and product on the shelf to be able to be sold, and ultimately better service to the customer. And for FMCG, that's been the focus, been very simple. Build better DCs, design better operations, keep the costs low, availability high, let the customer have this access to this widest range as possible. And obviously, there's other aspects that we try to do in the DC, keeping the temperature right, making sure we don't damage product, maintain quality, and manage the freshness. But when we get to fashion, it's a different game. And so what makes fashion different? What is the value chain? So that's an advert that was done by Desigual for Christmas, but I mean, it's vibrant and it's about fashion. It's about driving customers. And it's a different thing that drives a customer to buy fashion. Because you go to the shelf and you buy a bottle of tomato sauce. If it's not there, choose another brand. With fashion, you don't know what you're going to buy until you get into the store. So it drives you different. So fashion is driven by novelty. Okay. Fashion brands are continuously designing and producing one collection after another, and looking at different trends and the upcoming season and what's happening on social media and what's driven by their community that they're trying to sell to. So supply chains are driven by very specific challenges and constraints. So very different to an FMCG process. A fashion brand needs to make a decision on what to design, when to produce it, what products to purchase if it has to purchase, what to plan, and get it at the right price and get it into stock at the right time to satisfy the demand. Okay? And now comes the challenges, because there's regular sales, there's seasonal sales, there's trends, there's new products, there's promotions. And what drives fashion? There's good design. You can say, well, a lot of it may be good, but until you're influenced to buy it. So social media and influencers today are changing the whole fashion world. Okay? It used to be that you'd have the Paris show and launch and the runway and so on. Today, fashion is driven by what's happening on social media. And it's influenced by what's happening in other markets. But it's a complex supply chain. There's long lead times. Cloth You decide when you want to make that beautiful dress the lady's wearing. Okay, you've got to decide to manufacture that cloth, what type of cloth, get it manufactured, get it sourced, get it into production for a CMT, find the location of your CMT, the cost of manufacturing, the quality you want, the lead time, and your economy of scale, your batch sizes to produce. All of that comes into the equation, and then you finally got to deliver it and supply it to the stores and merchandise it on the shelf. So it's a complex process. But how do you plan, and what is the demand? Because how do you estimate the potential sales for something that's never existed before? It's novelty. Okay? It's got no sales history. You can't say it's a shirt, and I sold 5 shirts last month, but if I make it in a blue color and a black color and a red color, it has different demands. And if I change the design, I don't know whether people like it or not. And it depends what social media is going to say. Okay. So the key challenge to fashion is the novelty, and it's driven by guess. Okay? Sales are generated by product assortment, presented to a customer, and people don't realize that. Okay? People don't know what they will buy when they go into the store. And often retailers, I discovered this, put products in their stores to actually force people to buy other products, because they put ugly products to try to drive you to better looking products, because there's more money in that product. So they actually merchandise. It's a reverse psychology. So demand is strongly influenced by the absence or presence of similar products competing for the same customer. Here's a lovely example. You take 2 T-shirts, one black, one white. I was supposed to bring them, but I'm getting old, so I forgot them at home. But you know what 2 T-shirts look like, so you don't need them here. Okay, 2 products are actually competing against each other. I'm only going by one. Only one will sell. So their own products on the floor are competing. Then I choose the black one. Then the black one is now competing against all the other black ones in different sizes. Okay, and so but you've got to have the whole range to be able to sell me that black T-shirt. Okay, because if you don't have the size I want, I'm going to walk out of there because I've chosen not to go for the white. Okay, and so to make a sale, you need both colors in the full range of sizes. And in retail clothing, they call it a visual merchandise spec. There are other names. Different retailers have other terminologies. But really, it's about having the right range of product in the shelf to be able to make the sale. And then you've got another complexity, seasonality. Products need to be changed based on time of the year and trends. So there used to be a summer and a winter season. Then there became 4 seasons, autumn, spring, summer, winter. Some retailers have 52 micro seasons, and that's driven by this demand to have fresh fashion, fast fashion, new fashion, and social media influencers are driving that. That's also driving a lot of waste and inefficiency, and we'll deal with that at the end, okay? But they're trying to drive customers to purchase new items every week, something new. Could we end up with 365 fashions where we get a new range launched every day? Who knows? Okay, I don't know. The science of seasonality is not fixed. Global warming's changed our seasons. So you go buy a warm item and today is freezing cold, you're stuffed. So you've got to go wear something warm. People travel easily. So now you've got to have clothes for different seasons for different countries that you weren't expecting. I remember going to Canada and getting out of the hotel in -30, and you don't get clothes in South Africa for -30. Okay, and then I come back to the social media influencers. They drive very much on fashion. And then, of course, the other challenge in fashion is sales and markdown. So what's a sale? It's a manifestation of your forecast gone wrong. New product got to come in, you've got to get rid of the old, you've got to make space. But there's actually complete businesses that are driven around sales and driven around expired product and driven around markdown products. So there's companies like TJ Maxx in the UK, Marshalls in the States, that actually buy these end of season and sell it at a lower price and have a complete supply chain and business for that. We have some guys doing similar things in South Africa at a lower scale and not as well as what's done in America and the UK, but it's starting. I think TFG's got a brand called RFO that's driven to do that for them. Okay, you got to make room for the new. But the sales boost the demand for the product and actually speed up your inventory rotation of those products. The danger is the customers actually wait for the sales. So I'll actually know there's be a sale at Pringles, and why should I go pay that price when I can get 40% off in a week's time Who cares if I'm not that fashion conscious, so if it's last season's, this season, who cares? Okay, but maybe some people won't. Okay, so the key measure of success is your percentage of markdown. So at the end of the day, you've bought product, and at the end of the season, you've got a markdown, and now you've got a high percentage, 45% you had to mark down. That says you didn't get your planning, your supply chain right, the product was in the wrong place, didn't sell. Okay. So we need to be able to understand that. Consumer demand is driven by supply. You need to make the right decision on assortment, stock allocation to stores. You need to identify your best sellers. You need to identify stores and regions that will sell better. So you have a different commodity in different stores because the store has different demographics and different people buying. Okay, your pricing strategy and complementary products. I spoke about products that drive you to buy things or to buy extra things like that. There's quite a lot of science to it.
Why do you buy the things that you do? Why do you buy the candy bar and the bright yellow wrapping? Why do you buy the jewelry and the flashy packaging? And why do you still buy McDonald's even though you know it's absolutely shit for you? Guess what? It really isn't your fault. The answer, though, is surprisingly simple. You buy them because they make you feel good. And that's exactly the way the product was designed.
And that's what supply chain's about, is we're trying to get the product to the person so they can feel good by buying it. Because this whole culture of buying and consumerism is what we're for. So let's talk about the fashion supply chain. We deal with the continuous and complex challenges. There's continuous product novelty with no sales history to work with. Historically, companies are focused on minimizing manufacturing cost. So they went to China because it was cheaper there. And the long lead times didn't influence them, so they bought a bit more to fill more buffer and more guesswork. Okay? They never measured waste and markdowns. Guys, we've got more sales through cheaper product. Stock was issued to the store, filled the stockroom, and keep the VMS working, and that's it. And then we'll put a sale at the end and sell what we don't have. Okay? And that's how the businesses ran. It was a whole new supply chain for the sale products. And the cost of supply chain. Then people said, okay, let's do pre-packs or musicals where you actually deliver one box that's actually got a mixture, a size curve. Okay? And DCs were close to manufacturers. You look at in South Africa, most of the apparel retailers had their main DC in Durban or Cape Town, not in Joburg, where 50 or 60% of the market is. Okay? So you end up with lots of IBTs. You don't measure lost sales. When a guy walks into a store and walks out because he didn't find it, you don't know what that was. The only time people start to realize what their lost sales are is when you click on a website for an item and you can't deliver it. You can start to measure it electronically on the website. But unless they implant some chip in my brain and I walk into a store and I look at that shirt and I try to find the medium in the black and it's not there, they won't know that I missed it and I walked out. So lost sales are a big thing. So what's the new trend? There's a lot of new thinking. We're looking for speed of response, flexibility. There's rapidly changing trends. We're now into this fast fashion market. So people are doing what they call an initial release, and then they do a holdback. So they can supply the stores on a secondary push or a secondary pull to the store as the demand is there. So they actually cut out that wastage. And the whole drive is to drive that markdown percentage down and pick up on the lost sales that you would have had by having the stock sitting in the wrong store, by being able to service the store that's actually selling it. Okay? And you want to get close to the customer. So we're looking for reduced markdowns, reduced lost sales. And now we're using better planning and better forecasting. And now we can use technology. We've got big data. We've got AI. And we can start to do predictable stuff. So even though it's novelty and there's no history, but we can pick up with AI intelligent trends and model things and simulate and guess better. It's still a guess. Okay. DCs are releasing stock just in time and just to fill up the VMS. And there's a holdback. And now there's a lot of move towards singles replenishment. So now you're starting to put expensive infrastructure in that pick singles. Okay? But how can you cannibalize that investment and get some payback? Well, go into e-commerce. E-commerce needs singles. So what you're doing is you're finding multifunctional DCs that can do e-commerce fulfillment as well as top up using their singles infrastructure. Okay, so there's a balance between these two things, between your markdowns, your lost sales, the space saving in stores because you've got less reverse logistics and less safety stock, and you use data to drive replenishment. And then the big thing that we learned from COVID was the insourcing or onshoring of production and bringing it back to South Africa and closer to where your market is, so you can shorter supply chains and be more reactive, and that makes your supply chains more sustainable. Of course, e-commerce is another challenge. Okay, it's all about availability. The big difference from an in-store shopping, the range that's promised has got to be delivered. It's got to be delivered. Your speed of fulfillment, the longer it takes you to fulfill, the more chance of a buyer remorse. More chance you'll think twice about it and send it back. And of course, all the e-commerce guys make it easy to send it back, so you'll do it. And some guys buy extra just to get their free delivery on the basis they will send back the balance. Okay, it's not that moral, but people do that. Okay, buying multiple sizes and colors. Okay, there's too many ladies here, I can't tell my joke, too rude. Why people buy 3 instead of 1, but it's the size. You don't trust what you're buying. The size of quality isn't exact on every item you buy. So if I buy a 42 shoe, tomorrow I buy a 43, fits me, the 42 is too tight. I was in the Puma store in Germany the other day, and I tried on 3 different styles of shoe, and the 41, the 42, and the 43 in the 3 different styles fitted me. You would think that the 42 would be my size across all 3 styles in Puma. I mean, I can understand if I went to Adidas and it was different, but that's how things are, okay? Okay, so we need to use technology to protect size and reduce returns. I've got a video at the end, I'll show you that. And we need to manage returns and manage reducing returns. Okay, trends in e-commerce, move to a real omni-channel. So you merge your in-store experience to your click and collect, to your shop and deliver, try now, buy later. There's beacons in store that try drive you to buy. There's smart mirrors. I don't know who's seen smart mirrors. AR shopping advice. These smart mirrors, you can have your laptop or have a mirror, you go in and it can fit the clothes on you without changing. It's quite exciting, okay? And it's all there to make you buy. Try reduce returns and satisfy the customer. Then we talk about returns and waste, and this is a topic that I'm passionate about. I don't think you see fashion models sitting on waste heaps often, but fashion waste is a problem. Fashion waste, and we drive it with fast fashion. It's costing the global economy about 400 billion rand every year. Okay, fashion leads to environmental disaster. There's a lot of carbon footprint that comes out of it. And they say we throw about 60% of our clothes away in the first year. I don't think I did that in the last 2 years because of COVID. I didn't go shopping and I'm wearing all the old clothes. But I probably will need to go shopping soon and buy a new wardrobe. But estimated 18.6 million tons of clothing will end up in landfill. Okay, and 1.2 billion tons of greenhouse gases. And so our drive is to try to close that return logistics leg, that when you go into a store to buy something, maybe you bring the old clothing back, you get some sort of loyalty points, and there's some process, but it needs a whole supply chain to actually manage and repurpose that, because a lot of the clothing is still good, can go to charity or go to cheaper sales or be repurposed into the market. So there is opportunity. So what's happening in the future? It's exciting. There's lots of technology, radio shuttles, that's going to drive different processes in your DC. There's the big buzzword is AMR. Anyone here not heard of an AMR? Nice. Okay. Autonomous mobile robots. And I was at Logimat last week or the week before, and it's the big buzzword on everything, and AMRs are going to change our lives. And they will happen in South Africa as well. And then shelf carrier AMRs, that's what Amazon does, moving the stock to the picker. And then you've got fancy shuttles that climb racking. I saw this at Logimat, I was quite impressed. Okay, quite nice. And then there's AutoStore. I don't know if anyone's seen AutoStore. It's a burrowing technology. It's very efficient, very cube efficient, and works brilliantly and very simple. So that's going to drive things. It requires some careful pick planning and it's deep storage lane. But the automation, I mean, the beauty is these guys we went to see an operation in Germany, ran one shift. During the rest of the shifts, they've got the orders for the rest of the day. They've got to pick. The system's busy reorganizing stock. So when the pickers arrive to actually be brought the stock, the thing's already in a sequence to feed the pick stations. What else is going to happen?
For retailers, data is both their biggest asset and biggest challenge. It's the key to understanding and engaging their consumers. It lets them efficiently and effectively plan their product assortment mix at the hyper-local level. At the store level, data is at the core of effective store optimization. And when it comes to supply chain management, data means visibility and flexibility at a global level. Retailers competing on low margins have known for decades that data is a powerful tool, and big data takes it and supercharges it for the modern multi-channel retail environment. Retailers who embrace big data throughout their organization can unlock hidden value in many other functions as well. For instance, risk management presents a huge opportunity for retailers to use their existing data to improve the bottom line. What can big data tell us about customers? Today's consumers know more about you than ever before, and you know more about them. Without the insights that big data analytics provide, you risk missing opportunities to engage them with the kinds of products and offers they're searching for, or maybe didn't even know they wanted. Big data lets retailers target consumers with personalized suggestions, upsell and cross-sell based on prior behavior and predictive models. This can include acquisition pattern analysis, collaborative filtering based on associations between products, customer-specific scorecards, real-time store sales modeling, and can even determine optimal pricing for individual consumers. That ability to predict what consumers will purchase and for how much is incredibly useful.
So the data in the world is going to change our lives, and being able to use it. Every DC will produce about 500,000 lines of data every day. What are we doing with the data? That's just the data in the DC. The data at stores, the data of the customers, being able to use it intelligent is going to change our lives. I've got a video. It runs a bit long. I think we've got time. Let's run it.
To enhance in-store experiences while simultaneously bridging your physical and online experiences. Beacons are small, wireless devices that transmit a continuous radio signal. The signal ID is detected by smartphones that send the ID to a cloud server. The server can then push targeted content to the device. Bluetooth Low Energy, BLE, is a technology behind beacons, and it provides device location on a very micro level, down to a single store aisle, for instance. This means that if you have opted in, retailers will be able to gather data not only on your movements, but also be able to push content to your device. Say you're walking past your favourite department store and they're having a sale. With a beacon nearby, your phone could alert you to the sale. From a retailer's perspective, the data collection aspect of beacons is arguably more important than sales. They will be able to use the information to better segment customers and advertise accordingly. Stores like Macy's and Barney's have already deployed beacons. Retailers are no longer content to identify us via swipe of a loyalty card at the point of sale. They want to identify us as soon as we enter the store. The iPhone X has helped to normalise facial recognition, and using this technology, retailers aim to provide a customised experience. The technology, which uses over 16,000 reference points on your face, was originally designed to support security at events at international airports. By using facial recognition systems, retail staff will know what type of products you buy and what your average spend is, so they can give more love to higher spenders. They'll be able to use software that reads emotion to identify when you are frustrated and notify staff to respond. Of course, the staff that do respond may not be your typical human employees. Meet your new robot shopping assistant.
Hello, I am Oshbot. What are you looking for today?
Robot assistant technology already exists and can greet you in multiple languages. They have built-in 3D scanners with image recognition software to identify items and navigate the store to guide you to the product. If you have an out-of-the-box question that is beyond the robot, it can start a video conference with a human. The robots are not limited to customer interaction and will also move into supply chain with robots that check stock, find pricing errors, and items that have been misplaced. These robots are intelligent enough to navigate existing stores and move around customers. The data these robots gather is compiled and analysed to provide improvement recommendations. Traditional mirrors are out and smart displays are in. Using artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and gesture recognition technology, the mirrors can superimpose clothing over your on-screen image. In effect, the mirror becomes a virtual changing room where you can create complete outfits without ever getting undressed. This technology allows you to see all items, even items that are not in stock, and try on dozens of different combinations. To see what the same item would look like in a different colour, just swipe your hand. You can even share your virtual picture on social media, so your friends can give you advice before you buy that new jacket. Oak Labs has a similar product for fitting rooms. When you walk into a fitting room, the mirror comes alive with all the items you have using RFID. You can request other sizes, cuts and colours with the display, and an alert is sent to sales staff to deliver the product to you. Using big data, the sales staff can also bring in additional products that other customers typically buy with those items. Essentially, it brings the ease of online shopping into the tangible world of retail. Retail stores can use this technology not just to measure average time in the fitting room, but also which items have the highest conversion rate. After robot support and interactive displays comes the payment process. Self-service checkouts have existed for over a decade. Paying with your phone or watch is newer, but we will see the rise and fall of this technology. The future of payments is you walking out of the store with your items automatically being scanned and the total being charged to your account. Amazon already has shops that identify you as you enter and automatically charge you as you leave. No need to scan any items. Payment in the future will have no queues, no checkouts, and no hassles.
So what will the supply chain of the future look like? We're going to see a lot of robots and mobility from AGVs to AMRs, increased flexibility on other hard automation processes. So I don't think you'll see many ASRS systems and so on. Last minute decision making, removing the boundaries between your WMS, your WCS, and your WES. Okay, data-driven supply chain and logistics, real-time decision-making, enhanced visibility and labor optimization throughout the process. And then lean green logistics, paperless operations, reuse of materials handling equipment, reverse logistics to convert and return waste packaging and return product to be reused and recycled. So I think that's going to drive the future. Why do we focus on the retail side? Because if we're designing as Relog distribution centers, we need to understand what's happening in the store, what's happening as the trends in supply chain, so that we can design a better solution for the customers to be able to fill them better. If we don't understand that end, we don't do a good enough job in what we're doing in the DC, and we're designing it in a silo. So we need to understand that the supply chain exists for the consumer. Supply chain is complex, there's multiple touch points, there's multiple stakeholders, everyone's got their own objectives and efficiency, and it's very siloed. So we need to break those silos and make sure we look end to end. The pandemic exposed us to the vulnerability of a global supply chain ecosystem. And we need to see how we make that work today. We need end-to-end visibility and measures. And the customer demand is ever changing. Okay, there's customization, quality, low cost, and ready availability continuously being driven. And in summary, grocery supply chains are driven by cost efficiency, availability. Fashion supply chains are driven by customers, the variety, the choice, the selection, the minimum waste, minimizing lost sales, minimizing markdowns, and really you can see the difference in how you have to structure your organization to make that work. So I've left about 5 minutes for questions. Any questions, please don't feel shy. And if anyone wants to talk to me, we'll be at our stand, Relog, just outside.
Are there any questions?
Sorry, I want to ask, what's the solution for the first world countries greenwashing their waste into the third world countries with the fashion industry especially?
So there's a stand just outside that looks at waste recycling and clothing recycling. I think you should go talk to them. But obviously, it comes from a drive. There's social drives within companies from their ESG to actually make sure things are recycled and to see value, and also not to cannibalize their market. So if they brought back their clothes into the market, it would cannibalize. So there is a drive to actually push it into third world countries. But within the logistics cost, there's a supply chain cost to get it there.
Gary, I don't know if you can answer this, but just an interesting thought is that as all this technology starts to optimize for Macy's and these massive retailers, it sounds like the middle guys who don't have economies of scale will disappear, and you'll have the very big guys and then the boutique shops, and the middle will kind of disappear or buy and acquire many small middle and become massive.
I don't think that's true, because with any technologies, it starts off as expensive and technology cost comes down over a period of time. There's some law that says every year you halve the cost of electronics. It hasn't happened recently with the chip shortage, but in general, as these technologies develop, they will become more available and more affordable to the smaller and middle things. There'll just be a lag before the middle range retailers can afford it.
Gary, thank you for a great presentation. I'm Jesse from Clothes to Good. Have you got any examples of solutions that you've been involved with the waste recycling and supply chain solutions relative to that?
We've got some stuff that we're working on with one of our clients, but it's relatively confidential. There's NDAs about it at the moment because it's giving them a strategic position in the market. So I'll talk to you privately about it if we can.
Hi, thanks. It was very interesting. Lots of things that I didn't know. The scary part, though, is there's an article, Dead White Man's Clothes. I don't know if you've seen it. It's about 50 million garments a week. 50 million garments a week getting dumped into places like Burkina Faso, etc., etc. Now, we and this is actually just a comment. We think we're doing a good thing by taking clothes and giving it to people. We're actually just giving it to someone who's going to take it and dump it somewhere else. We need to find a way where we can actually recycle it within South Africa rather than, and we're part of the problem. But
So in South Africa it's relatively easy because we have a dichotomy of population from very poor people to very wealthy people. But if you go to the European and America, the average population is quite wealthy, and therefore the waste doesn't have a place in that market. Okay, but quite correctly, is someone living in a squatter camp going to wear some Louis Vuitton fashion dress? She won't even know what it is. She just wants something comfortable and practical. So there's got to be a balance between this. And then there's also a drive not only to send clothing back, but a drive to repurpose the material or reconstitute stuff into new products and so on by recycling it properly. So that's going to change with technology. I was very lucky about 2 weeks ago to be in Munich at a conference called, it's the biggest conference in music and exhibition on recycling. And you can see the exciting stuff they're doing there with product going into compost, into energy, into gases, and so on. So there's a whole supply chain that's it's called ISAT. And there's a whole lot of there's a question there.
Hello. I think I noticed something with the virtual reality of fitting clothes. Now, we millennials, I'm just giving an example, something new a new design or something, and then I try it on virtually. Aren't you worried about the risk of because you say it can allow you to take pictures? Aren't you worried about me taking several pictures, virtual reality, I'm trying on all these different clothes, and then with my unethical behavior, I'm still not buying? I mean, that is so wrong.
It's part of the market and sales where people go in. People do unethical things in retail. In America, you can return anything you buy at almost any store. I remember many, many years ago, about 30 years ago, a cousin of mine took me skiing. He drove in, on the way to go skiing, he drove into the Best Buy and he bought himself a radar detector. And I said, why are you buying it? He says, well, we're going to be driving to Wisconsin, and they trap in Wisconsin. So I said, just for this trip. He says, don't worry, when we return after our skiing trip, he's returning it. Okay, it's not the ethical thing, but that's what people do. And half the product that ends up on the shelves at TJ Maxx are customer returns because they bought it just to use it. I went to Next in their warehouse, and the guy was showing us their return section, and where they repurpose the suits and everything, and you shake the suit out and all the confetti comes out. So the guys have bought suits just to wear for a wedding, okay, and return it. And the girl, yeah.